All right. So today we're diving into something that, well, you might not expect to be all that interesting. Life
Yeah.
insurance. I know, I know not exactly the most thrilling topic at first glance, right? But getting ready for our deep dive today, I got to say I found some seriously interesting stuff about life insurance that goes way beyond just filing away a policy and hoping for the best.
Yeah, you're totally right. It really doesn't have to be scary or boring.
Exactly. So before we get to all the mind-blowing stuff, let's start with the basics. Can you give us that life insurance 101 breakdown? What's the core concept here?
Okay, so at its heart, life insurance is like a safety net for your loved ones. Imagine like a financial safety harness, but instead of catching you if you fall, it catches your family if something unexpected were to happen to you. You pay a little bit regularly, and these payments are called premiums, and then if the worst happens, your beneficiaries get a lump sum called a death benefit.
Okay, so it's a financial safety net. I
Uh-huh.
like that. But what does that actually mean, practically speaking? What does that safety net really help with?
Good question. It's all about providing for your loved ones when you're no longer there to do it yourself. Think of the big things. Income replacement, so your family can maintain their standard of living. Paying off big debts like a mortgage or loans so they don't inherit a financial burden. Even things like funding future goals, like your kids' education, or helping your spouse with their retirement.
I think a lot of people, myself included, we kind of have this image of life insurance as something you only really need to think about later in life. But when you put it that way, securing your family's future, no matter what, it suddenly feels, I don't know, a lot more urgent, even for us younger folks.
You got it. And that actually brings up an interesting point because there are actually different types of life insurance out there, each designed to fit different life stages and needs. The two main categories you'll come across are term life insurance and permanent life insurance.
Hmm. Okay. I'm starting to see where this is going. So from the research we look at, it sounds like term is the more straightforward one.
Exactly. Think of term life insurance like renting an apartment. It covers you for a fixed period, say like 10, 20, or 30 years. And it's generally more affordable, kind of like renting versus buying a place, right? It's a great option if you just need coverage for a specific window of time.
Right, which totally makes sense these days. So
Mhm.
many people are freelancing or working these gig economy jobs, short-term contracts. It's not like the old days where you worked for the same company for your entire life. Term life insurance seems like it would offer, that flexibility to match how a lot of people live and work today.
You're totally spot on. It lines up perfectly with how we live and work now. Now, on the other side, we have permanent life insurance, which is more like owning a home. It offers lifelong coverage and it can build what's called cash value over time.
Okay, cash value. Now, that's a term I've definitely heard thrown around before, but I'll be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on the specifics.
Sure, sure. So basically, with permanent life insurance, a portion of your premium goes into a separate account, and this account can potentially grow over time. Think of it like almost a savings component that's attached to your policy. You can even borrow against this cash value if you need to, or withdraw it later in life.
Wait, so it's kind of like life insurance, but with a built-in investment feature. That's
Mm.
pretty wild. Is that what people are talking about when they mention life insurance as part of like a whole financial strategy?
It absolutely can be. But it's not quite as simple as it might sound at first. There are actually different types of permanent life insurance, and each one comes with its own, complexities.
Yeah.
But the important thing to understand here is that permanent life insurance can definitely play a role in long-term financial planning, especially for things like retirement or legacy planning.
Okay, you've definitely got me thinking in a whole new way about all of this. It's blowing my mind a little bit, not going to lie. Okay, so just to recap, what we've learned so far. Life insurance. It's not about stuff. It's about people, right?
Hmm.
It's about creating that financial safety net for the people you care about most. And we've just scratched the surface of these two main types, term and permanent. But something tells me there's so much more to uncover here.
Oh, absolutely. We're just getting started, really. We've only just dipped our toes into the fascinating world of life insurance.
Okay, so life insurance is already shaping up to be way more interesting than I initially thought. But before we go any further, there's something I want to address. I have to admit, even I had some misconceptions about life insurance before we started this deep dive. Like, what are some of the biggest myths that people believe?
Oh, there are plenty. One of the biggest ones is that life insurance is always going to be a huge expense. And while it's true that some types of permanent life insurance can get pricey, term life insurance, especially for younger, healthier individuals, can be surprisingly affordable. I mean, We're talking potentially even less than your daily latte.
Really? Wow. Okay, yeah, that's way less intimidating than I imagined.
Hmm.
Makes sense, though, right?
Yeah.
You're basically insuring against a lower statistical risk when you're younger. Like,
Mm.
think about it. Your car insurance probably costs less now than it did when you were 16. Speaking of age, is that another one of those myths, like that you don't need life insurance when you're young and healthy?
That's a big one for sure, especially these days, right? You're young, you're in your prime, you're healthy. You're probably thinking, life insurance? Yeah, I'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Life has a way of throwing curveballs no matter how old you are. And often, securing coverage early can mean you lock in lower premiums for the long run. Plus, you usually have more options to choose from when you're younger and considered lower risk.
It's like that old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is now.
So true. Okay, so myth busting aside, this brings up a super practical question that I bet our listeners are wondering right now. How much life insurance is enough? Like, is there a magic formula or something?
You know, I wish there were a simple answer, but unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's not like ordering off a menu where you can just say, I'll take the average coverage with a side of standard beneficiary.
Hmm,
Figuring out how much you need really is a personalized process.
gotcha. So ditch those generic rules of thumb that you always hear about.
Yeah, exactly. Because those can be really misleading. They don't take into account your unique situation. So when you're trying to figure out your needs, you really want to think about things like your income, your expenses, any outstanding debts you have, whether it's student loans, a mortgage, the number of dependents you have, any big future expenses you're anticipating, like college tuition and even your own personal retirement goals. It's about painting a complete picture of your financial life, then right. Not just trying to slap a Band-Aid on a potential problem.
Yeah.
This is way more holistic than I realized. Okay, so we've busted some myths. We've talked about the importance of taking this personalized approach to figure out your coverage needs. And yet I still feel like we've only just scratched the surface here.
You're absolutely right. There's a whole other dimension to life insurance we haven't even touched on yet, the potential financial advantages it can offer while you're still alive.
Wait, you mean beyond just the death benefit? You're talking about that whole cash value thing again?
Precisely. Remember how we talked about permanent life insurance policies having that savings component? Well, certain types of permanent life insurance, like whole life insurance and indexed universal life insurance, or IUL for short, offer these unique tax advantages that can be incredibly beneficial.
Okay, wait, hold on. Tax advantages with life insurance. Now you've officially piqued my curiosity.
It's true. With these policies, the cash value you build up, it actually grows tax deferred. Basically, you don't pay taxes on any of that growth until you actually withdraw the money, which could be, decades down the line.
Hold on, so you're saying that money is essentially growing tax-free until you actually need it. That's huge. I mean, most investments don't offer that kind of benefit.
Yeah, exactly. And there's even more. So withdrawals from the cash value up to a certain limit can actually be completely tax-free. So you basically have the source of funds that you can potentially tap into for major life events, whether it's buying a house, paying for your child's education, supplementing your retirement income, all without getting hit with a huge tax bill.
Wow, okay. Life insurance is like a tax-efficient savings vehicle. That's not something you hear every day. I can definitely see how this could be a game changer for like long-term financial planning.
It certainly can be. But, gotta add a note of caution here. Permanent life insurance with these features, it can be a lot more complex than term life insurance, requires some careful consideration. It's often a good idea to talk to a qualified financial advisor to help you navigate these waters effectively. You don't want to jump into something like this without doing your homework first.
Right. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. Definitely want to make sure it aligns with, your overall financial goals, your risk tolerance, all of that. So this is where things start to get really interesting, but maybe a little more complex for the average person.
Let's take a quick pause to let all this sink in, and when we come back, we'll unpack these different types of permanent life insurance a little bit more, and most importantly, how to figure out which approach makes the most sense for you. All right, we're back. I don't know about you, but my head is spinning a little bit after that last segment. Turns out, life insurance is way deeper than I ever realized.
It really is fascinating when you start to peel back the layers, isn't it? For sure. And the more you know, the better equipped you are to make those informed decisions. So let's bring it all home for our listener, shall we? We've covered a ton of ground here, from the basics to some pretty surprising benefits. What are the key takeaways you want our listeners to walk away with?
For me, it always circles back to that idea of peace of mind. It's about knowing that no matter what curveballs life throws your way, you've got that safety net in place for your loved ones.
It's funny, right? Thinking back to how I saw life insurance before, all doom and gloom. But really, it's about love,
Yeah.
you know? Taking care of the people who matter most, even when you can't be there in person.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's not about trying to predict the future. It's about being prepared for whatever the future might hold.
So true. And that actually reminds me of another big takeaway for me. Ditch those misconceptions, right? Don't let those myths you've heard hold you back from actually exploring what's out there.
Exactly. Especially when you consider that often waiting to buy life insurance, it can mean missing out on those lower premiums. It's kind of like anything else in life. The earlier you start planning, the more options you'll have and the better positioned you are down the road.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about that peace of mind. We've busted some myths. We've even uncovered some unexpected financial benefits that come with certain types of life insurance. What else should our listeners be thinking about as they kind of navigate I don't know, the world of life insurance?
One thing that's really crucial to keep in mind, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Just because something works for your neighbor or your best friend, that doesn't mean it's the right fit for you. So taking that time to really assess your individual needs, your goals, that's so important.
So it's about finding that policy that really aligns with your life, your family, your goals. And speaking of finding that right fit, we've talked about term and permanent life insurance, but maybe you can give us a super quick recap, like when each type might make the most sense.
Sure. So think of term life insurance as that reliable friend you call when you need something specific for a set period of time. Like it's great for covering a mortgage, a car loan, those just in case scenarios. Or, like we talked about, providing for your family while your kids are young. Permanent life insurance, on the other hand, that's more like a long term relationship, right? It's there for the long haul. Offers that lifelong coverage and, as we discussed, has the potential for cash value accumulation and those tax advantages that can be so beneficial.
So it really comes down to your individual situation and priorities then. Are you looking for that more essential safety net for a defined period of time, or are you interested in exploring the potential for that long-term growth alongside that protection?
Exactly. And remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. The important thing is that you understand what your options are, that you're asking questions, and that you ultimately find a solution that gives you that peace of mind we've been talking about.
Peace of mind. Such a great way to frame it. Okay, listener, here's what we want you to walk away with today. Take a moment and just imagine what true financial security would look like for you. What would it feel like to know that you've built that solid foundation for yourself, for your loved ones, not just for today, but for all the tomorrows to come?
Beautiful.
Right. And remember, you don't have to have all the answers right now.
Yeah.
Take your time, explore those options, talk to a trusted financial advisor if you need guidance. And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into the surprisingly engaging world of life insurance. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive into a topic that's sure to pique your curiosity.